A man in his late 40s posted a video last month that has been viewed over 10 million times. He's sitting on a porch, drinking coffee, looking out at a quiet street. He's not angry. He's not bitter. He just looks peaceful. He says, "I've been single for 5 years. Best 5 years of my life." I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I'm saying it because it's true. I spend my weekends however I want. I answer to no one. My money is mine. My time is mine. My peace is mine. My married friends look at me like I'm missing something. I look at them and see stress, compromise, and exhaustion. I'm not missing anything. That video has sparked a massive conversation. Married people calling him selfish. Single people saying they feel the same. And underneath all the noise, there's a truth that nobody wants to admit. More and more men aren't just single. They're happier single. A 2025 study from the University of Chicago found something that surprised a lot of people. Single men now report higher life satisfaction than single women. That was the first year that had ever happened. For decades, single women reported being happier than single men. That gap has not only closed, it's reversed. Why? Because men have built lives they actually enjoy, and women haven't. I talked to a 41-year-old man in Florida named Steve. He's never been married. He's been in long-term relationships, but he never pulled the trigger. He owns a small boat. He fishes every weekend. He has a group of friends he's known since high school. He cooks. He travels. He's happy. I asked him if he ever regrets not getting married. He laughed and said, "Sometimes I wonder. But then I look at my married friends. They spend their weekends at Home Depot. They argue about money. They argue about the kids. They argue about whose family to visit for the holidays. One of them told me he hasn't had sex in 8 months. 8 months. I'm not missing that." Steve is not an outlier. A 2024 survey of single men found that over 60% said they were satisfied with their single lives. They weren't lonely. They weren't desperate. They weren't secretly miserable despite what they showed the world. They were genuinely content. What changed? For decades, single men were seen as sad, lonely, incomplete. The cultural narrative was clear. A man needed a woman to be whole. He needed marriage to be successful. He needed a family to have purpose. Without those things, he was a failure. That narrative has collapsed. Men watch their fathers, their uncles, their older brothers sacrifice their hobbies, their friends, their peace, chasing a version of happiness that never came. They watched men give everything and end up empty. And they said, "I'm not doing that." A 38-year-old man in Ohio told me, "My dad worked 50 years at a job he hated to support a family that barely talked to him. When he retired, my mom divorced him within a year. He died alone in a small apartment 3 years later. I loved my dad. But I'm not going to live his life. I'm going to live mine." This is the quiet truth that nobody is talking about. Men have seen the data. They've seen the divorce rates. They've seen their friends lose their homes, their savings, their kids. They've seen the happiness studies, and they've made a different choice. A 2025 study from the Institute for Family Studies found that single men are investing more time in friendships, hobbies, and community than they were a decade ago. They're not sitting at home crying into their beer. They're hiking. They're playing in bands. They're starting businesses. They're traveling. They're building lives that don't require a partner to feel complete. A 29-year-old man in Nashville told me, "I used to think I needed a girlfriend to be happy. I would chase women, get rejected, feel miserable. Then one day I realized I was spending all my energy trying to get someone to like me and none of it trying to like myself. So I stopped. I started running. I started cooking. I started reading. Now I wake up and my day is full of things I actually want to do. If someone comes along, great. If not, I'm still good." That's the shift. Men have stopped tying their happiness to whether someone chooses them. They've started tying it to whether they're living a life they're proud of. A 2026 report from the American Psychological Association found that single men report lower levels of stress than married men. Not slightly lower, significantly lower. Married men reported higher levels of financial stress, relational stress, and time pressure. Single men reported more freedom, more autonomy, and more time for themselves. I'm not saying marriage is bad. I'm not saying relationships are a trap. What I'm saying is that the old assumption that men are happier when they're coupled has been proven wrong. For many men, The opposite is true. A 34-year-old man in Seattle told me, "I was in a relationship for 3 years. I loved her. I really did. But I was exhausted. I was always trying to make her happy, always trying to anticipate her needs, always walking on eggshells. When we broke up, I felt relief before I felt sadness. That's how I knew I needed to be alone for a while. That was 2 years ago. I'm not ready to go back yet. I might never be." He's not broken. He's not afraid of commitment. He just discovered that being alone feels better than being with someone who drains him. There's a concept in psychology called the paradox of choice. Having more options doesn't make people happier. It makes them more anxious, more dissatisfied, more likely to wonder if they could have done better. This applies to relationships too. Men who have experienced both singlehood and relationships are uniquely positioned to compare, and more of them are concluding that singlehood wins. A 33-year-old man in Portland said something that stuck with me. He said, "I'm not against love. I'm against the idea that I need love to be happy. I am happy. Right now. Alone. If someone adds to that happiness, great. But I'm not going to sacrifice the happiness I already have for the promise of something that might not work out." That's the real reason men are happier single. Not because they don't want love, but because they've stopped believing that love is the only path to happiness. They've found other paths, and those paths are working. I'm not saying every single man is happy. I'm not saying every married man is miserable. What I'm saying is that the cultural script has flipped. For decades, single men were pitied. Now they're being envied, and that envy makes people uncomfortable. When a man says he's happier single, married people hear it as an attack on their choices. It's not. It's just a man stating his reality. He's not saying your marriage is bad. He's saying his single life is good. If you're a man watching this and you're happier single, I see you. You're not broken. You're not selfish. You just figured out what actually makes you happy, and you're not apologizing for it. If you're a woman watching this and you're wondering why so many men seem content alone, now you know. They're not hiding. They're not afraid. They just built lives they love, and they're not giving those lives up for anyone. And that's the real reason men are happier single. This is Men Decoded, where we don't blame men, don't shame women, and don't avoid the truth. We decode it.